Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Valerie Beard. I'm the Assistant Director of English Learners and Migrant Education Programs here at the Department of Ed. And I also have here with me.
This is Gina Woodward. I'm the Homeless Education Specialist with the Department of Ed.
Gina is new to our team, so this is her big debut with the homeless education community, and we are so excited to have her on board. And I'm excited to have her supporting our team and supporting the field as in this important work of homeless education. We also have our Director of Title Grants and Support, Nathan Williamson, here with us.
Hi, everyone.
We do have the slides for today available for you. So I've included the link to the Tiny URL here at the bottom if you'd like to follow along as we go. tinyurl.com/MVRFP. That's all caps on MVRFP. And we are recording today's webinar, and we will be posting it. It'll probably be at least a few days before we have that up and ready for you all, but we will share the link for the recording afterwards as well. We do have all of you muted today. We have quite a large group on the line, and so would really encourage you to type any questions as we go along in the chat box. At the end of our presentation, we're going to share the content with you that we have for today. And at the end of the presentation, we will allow some time for questions. Again, I think it's easiest to type those into the chat box, but we will give you the opportunity to unmute if there are questions you'd like to ask on the line as well. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. So as you know, on July 5th, IDOE released the new request for proposals, the new RFP for the 2019 to 2022 McKinney Vento grant cycle. So as always, McKinney Vento is a competitive grant. This year, the new RFP addresses some new priorities and expectations for our applicants, and it did include some significant changes to the structure of the grant compared to what's been done previously, which is why we wanted to hold the opportunity to walk through some of those changes with you and give you the chance to ask any questions. We also realize that some of those changes represent a significant difference in the scope of work and type of work that you may have previously funded through this program. So we wanted to talk to you about our reasoning for making some of those changes, and then also did want to build into this the opportunity for you to apply for either a 1-year or 3-year grant. So you'll see, we'll talk through that requirement, but for those of you who feel like maybe you're not able yet to implement some of the changes and expectations, you do have the opportunity to apply for a 1-year grant. Now with that, you'll see that priority for funding in this competitive grant is going to be given to those who are able to meet the coordination expectations and who are applying for the 3-year grant cycle. But that's one of the key pieces here I wanted to emphasize. And then I've also linked here for you the original RFP and supporting documents on our website, so the messaging that went out around that. If you didn't see that, if you're on the line, you probably saw that. That's where we advertised this webinar. But just in case maybe someone sent you this link without a lot of the background information, you can find all of that there to review in depth. We're going to go through kind of a big picture overview today of those different pieces. That's an extensive, detailed document that will provide support for you as well. The question is why make a change? Why are we looking at structuring things differently? Why looking at different priorities for our funding for McKinney Vento? So the current status of McKinney Vento in Indiana has been that only 33 Indiana LEAs receive the McKinney Vento funding. And so as a result of that, only just over 50% of our homeless students are actually able to benefit from the funding in our state. We've found that a lot of schools and districts have been operating in isolation as they attempt to serve their homeless students. And we know, of course, that this is a population where there is a lot of transience across district lines and a need to really support students beyond just the school walls, but with community partners as well. So our goal is to increase our impact on homeless students in our state by increasing coordination across different school districts, different LEAs in our state, to maximize impact and reach a broader number of students with effective, high-quality services. So we don't want to dilute those services and supports. Want to make sure that we're really emphasizing supports that are tied to long-term outcomes for students and that are going to have a lasting impact on our student population. And that's why the need to, we have the opportunity to speak with some other states who have operated with an emphasis on this coordination and more of a regional consortium model approach to this, and have seen a huge impact on the number of students served and the level of quality of services provided for students under the funding. That's what made us excited about looking at this opportunity for Indiana students as well. So in a moment, Gina's going to walk you through the various pieces of the RFP, but I wanted to touch on just the biggest changes if you haven't looked at that RFP yet, or maybe you haven't applied for this grant previously, and so you're not really sure what all these changes are we're talking about. Some of the biggest changes that we see, the first one is that expectation of coordination with other Indiana LEAs and homeless serving community organizations. So, of course, you've always been expected to be working with community partners, but this really formalizes that expectation, specifically of coordinating with other schools and districts. There's also an increased focus on high-impact grant activities. So we know that everyone is required to provide transportation or some basic costs for our homeless students. But what are the activities we're prioritizing that are going above and beyond to really address the root causes of our homeless students' needs and make a lasting impact on them? Another key change is that for those who are applying for the 3-year option as a consortium, there is an expectation that someone in the consortium be designated as the McKinney Vento Consortium Coordinator to really take the lead on coordinating efforts and making sure that that's a meaningful coordination and collaboration and not just something that's taking place on paper. And then the other key piece are some additional new tools and resources that we're really excited about to help you with goal setting and evaluation of your outcomes for the program. All right, I'm going to pause for just a second. Again, Gina's about to go through in detail the various sections of the RFP, but if you have any questions on what I've shared before I turn it over to her, I'm going to give maybe 30 seconds to a minute to type some things in there. And then, again, we'll have more extensive time for questions at the end. Okay, I don't see any questions at this time, so I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Gina. And again, please do be typing any questions you have as you go into the chat box. And we're going to walk through the RFP now.
Hi, everyone. We realize, obviously, that you have this in document form, but just wanted to highlight a couple of the things that you'll be reading through as you address and complete the RFP request. Step one would be determining whether or not you intend to apply for option 1, which would be a 1-year award given for an independent LEA, so just a single LEA, or option 2 with that consortium model where you can apply for funding for up to 3 years. The consortium would require partnership with multiple LEAs, at least 2. So your community partnership, as has always been required, it could be that option 1 version, but working with multiple LEAs would be the option 2, allowing you to apply for multiple years. And then you would consider the determination of your eligibility for amount awarded based on the students that are served in your data collected. The Indiana Department of Ed has identified priorities for awarding the grant. First of all, obviously, foremost, we're looking at compliance with the McKinney Vento law. Everything that we have, both as a state and locally, that is overviewed by federal law is what is going to be a requirement based on the grant award. So that's kind of where we begin as far as what we're looking for in that competitive nature grant. We want to work to increase the awareness of homelessness and, of course, the impacts that it's having on our local and statewide and even beyond, reaching international communities. Looking at that awareness is going to help inform the resources that we use and also the interventions that we put into place. We want to work hard to improve the quality of data collection and reporting. We do believe that there is potential for underreporting within the state of Indiana on homeless youth and children. So improving that data collection, unifying that data collection among cooperative agencies will be a big priority and something that will help us all better serve students. And then finally, increasing and promoting effective and best practices. Again, looking at that emphasis for collaborative work and also things that we can be doing that have a measurable impact on our students in schools. Next in the RFP, you're going to find a list of authorized activities. And again, as Valerie mentioned, funding priority is going to be going to activities that are going to address long-term outcomes, not just the short-term simple outcomes, but how are we going to impact students and families over a long period of time. The list that you see is not exhaustive. It's a place to start, and it gives suggestions for you to consider. But knowing that kind of thinking outside the box, being creative, and looking again at those long-term outcomes is something that you should consider when you're deciding how you would utilize your McKinney Vento funding. Next, it's going to review for you the emphasis on collaboration. In our state report on homelessness and the homeless remediation survey that was offered, some of the feedback that we're receiving kind of reaffirms that inclusion of social and emotional support, trauma-informed care, long-term financial well-being for students, access to higher education and workforce development. All of those things are important areas for us to work collaboratively to impact. And so those items can be emphasized in your grant application. Request for additional funding consideration if applying for the consortium option is also something to think about. So if LEAs in working together feel that you can validate and improve in your grant presentation, that more or additional funding could be helpful or necessary for you to achieve your long-term goals, please consider writing that into your grant proposal. It will be reviewed and considered. Don't feel like you have to have a cap. We don't want you to feel limited by the grant. We want you to feel like there's an opportunity there to share your ideas and thoughts. So think big picture if you need to. The next section that it's outlining is talking about the monitoring review. So we will have opportunities for both desktop and on-site monitoring. If you have a review from your Title I, the Consolidated Federal Grant Package Review, if that occurs in an on-site fashion for your school, then there will be also McKinney Vento grant review during that process, but we can also do mentoring and monitoring via telephone, WebEx, Skype sessions. We'll work in different ways to communicate with folks. And the frequency of monitoring will depend on your implementation plan and the amount of support that each grantee would require. So just for basics, again, this is all outlined in the RFP, but we wanted to kind of simplify it and put it forward for you in just a simple single spot. That priority for applications that are following that option 2 or the consortium model is important. Again, in a lot of the feedback and data we've collected through the state homelessness report and the remediation survey, I know there are lots of LEAs already doing this, already combining efforts. So this is just an opportunity to kind of celebrate that, push that model forward. We do know other states are finding lots of success for this model. So look at this as an opportunity, not something that would concern you in any way. It's a great opportunity for growth. Quality of project proposal would include a needs assessment, that evidence of collaboration, and an ability to identify and meet outcomes. So that's where that will be measured in the rubric for your proposal that is submitted for the grant. There is a 20-page limit, just some technical stuff, double-spaced 1-inch margins, and a 12-point font is required for your presentation. And the consortium applicants, again, must designate a single coordinator. So next is an outline of the scoring of the grant proposal. If you reviewed this RFP prior to today, you will notice a small correction in the outline of the grant. It does have parts A, B, and C that are required for completion. There is not a part D. So when you reviewed that, there are 3 sections, parts A, B, and C. the needs assessment, project description, and then consortium planning and development. That Part C is required for those folks applying under option 2. And then the attachments to your application would be your program assurances, your consortium coordinator job description for those of you applying under option 2, and then also the consortium consent agreement, which is going to outline all of your partners. And finally, for my part, I wanted to just highlight that, again, listed in your RFP, but if you are looking at ways to make your grant strong and data-driven and outcome-based, action-based, consider the following areas for outcomes where you're trying to measure your improvement and impact. Providing services that are going to address that achievement gap between homeless and non-homeless students in your community. Improving service provision through partnerships. Again, thinking locally and regionally, not just what you've already got existing, but thinking outside the box to involve other groups and organizations that can impact the success of these students. Or implementation of training and addressing enrollment, attendance, increasing student participation for students that are impacted by homelessness, and looking at the rates of academic success for this student population. So these are the things to consider when you're creating your grant proposal and you're writing your proposal to be considered and reviewed. And now I'm going to go back to Valerie. If you have questions, again, this is a really great time for you to get those into the chat box so that we can address those. And we are going to be moving forward to talk about timeline.
Okay. So as I mentioned, our RFP for McKinney Vento was released on July 5th. I'm sorry, I have on here August 2019. The specific deadline for this is August 30th, 2019, and I'll make that addition to the slides right when we're done so that you have that exact due date in front of you. It was printed in the RFP itself. The RFP will be, your proposal for the grant will be due Friday, August 30th, like I said, and the deadline is 1:30 p.m. on that Friday. The form is submitted by JotForm, and that link is included on our website in the original RFP. And because this is a competitive grant, we are not able to provide flexibility on that due date or on that timeline. So it's really important that you be working ahead of time on that, that you're ready to get that uploaded to the JotForm as required. If you have any questions, I would encourage you to go ahead and check that JotForm link, make sure you're not blocked from the website, anything like that, but that you have the opportunity to check and make sure you're ready to submit ahead of that deadline. Our hope is to have a very quick turnaround on grant award announcement. So our goal is to then have the awards announced by mid-September. And then I just wanted to point out that for this year, we are allowing our applicants to choose the 1-year or 3-year option. But next year, when the new RFP is released, there will only be the option to apply for the 3-year option. So if you are thinking about a 1-year, applying for that 1-year option, you may want to think about what that looks like for next year if you apply. The other piece to keep in mind is that we do have a limited amount of funding at the state level, which is why this grant is so highly competitive. And so any additional awards next year will be subject to availability as we look at those who have already been awarded a 3-year option this year. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're making your decision. And we wanted to share some additional supporting resources with you as well. Hopefully all of you who have been doing this work for a while are familiar with these resources. The National Center for Homeless Education, NCHE, the Coalition for Homelessness Intervention and Prevention, or CHIP, and then of course our DOE site for the education of homeless children and youth. So we are going to wrap up and look forward to connecting with you all soon. Thank you so much for your time.